Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Our guest speaker today is the United Kingdom's leading authority on ethical influence and persuasion. And today he's going to show you how to build influence and professional authority so you can get notice. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together and welcome our good friend, John Ball.
Thanks, Daniel. Good to be here. Great to be here.
Well, for our friends and followers, we have a very similar background and we come from aviation. Your experience in aviation, what are you taking away from your time as cabin crew?
There's a lot there, and because it's a daily customer-facing job, that I realized very quickly how to interact with people, and I like making people smile. So I got very good at doing that quickly and establishing those fast rapport things with people, which is, I guess it's a bit easier to do when people see a uniform and stuff like that. But I did learn that you can say just about anything with a smile on your face and get away with it. But I also learned the importance of clear communication, because I've been in also some emergency situations in that role where you have to be very direct and clear and assertive, and to understand that how you have to switch between different styles of communication. So I took a lot away from that. There's probably a load more as well if I really dig into it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining us live, type in live into the chat box, say hello. If you're joining us on the replay, type replay in the chat box and say hello. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? People will get upset that they didn't get their chicken meal. They didn't get their beef meal. They didn't get their fish meal. and I think you're right there with the smile. You can deliver bad news if you've got that smile. And you've also got to understand, I think, the structure of delivering your message. So, in your industry, what's the problem that you're helping your clients overcome?
Well, I'm working mainly with coaches and speakers and people who have personal brand-based businesses to help them increase their authority, to become more known for what they do and more recognizable by people, because I think that's a big issue. There's a sea of voices out there competing for space, and a lot of people are taking action in the wrong ways and getting noticed for the wrong things, and people end up resorting to things like clickbait or contrarianism and trying to be really throwing the cat in amongst the pigeons rather than trying to get known for good stuff. And I want to help people stay in their integrity and be able to become known for that as well, and step into these thought leader roles, because I think we have a lot of people out there who have really powerful, life-changing, maybe even world-changing messages who just aren't being heard.
Mm. With this noise in the marketplace, is the marketplace becoming louder because of COVID-19? Is it becoming louder because more people are online? What are you noticing over the past, say, 2.5 years because of the pandemic?
What I have been noticing, interesting for me, I've never liked the style of self-promotion that is all slick sales and look at me next to this private jet that I maybe hired for an hour to make you think it's mine, that kind of thing. I've never liked that. And I think I've seen a lot of people moving away from that and moving away from these self-proclaimed gurus who claim to have all the answers, and getting people to pay often hundreds of thousands for courses. There's been a very strong opposition to a lot of that, especially where some of these guys are really fleecing people for money rather than actually delivering great value, and people caring more and more about the relationship, about wanting to feel that they have a connection and they know who they're going to be working with and who they want to learn from. And also some of the people who are teaching, at least not claiming to have all the answers and to be the world's greatest or anything, but just saying, hey, look, this is my little piece of expertise and I want to help you with that, and doing that in a way that's actually connecting with people. So I see much more people care about relationships, authenticity, trust, likability, things that probably have always mattered, but we're having a return to that, or maybe this is the first time it's really developed in the online forum as much as it has.
I remember one of our colleagues in Emirates Airline, his wife would get an ID90 ticket. Now, for those people who don't know what an ID90 ticket is, it's where you get a 90% discount on the airline ticket. And this young woman, she would get the ID 90 ticket and fly first class. And so she'd have the photo of the champagne, the feet are up in 1 alpha. She's on the layover at the 5-star hotel. And all these hashtags, self-made woman, no man. And she's promoting this lifestyle that she's traveling the world. She's an influencer. On the return flight, there's bags of Louis Vuitton, Chanel and Gucci. And there's all these lavish photos. But everybody knew what she was really up to. Everybody who was crew knew that she was on the ID 90. Everybody who was in that circle knew that all the things that she was buying for people on layovers, tax-free, and going back and reselling it. And it was her husband who was doing all the hard work to be able to afford this lifestyle. And so all of us felt very incongruent around her because we're going, this is not real. We know it's not real.
Yeah.
But I think we were so afraid to say anything to her. We didn't want to, I don't know if it was embarrass ourselves or get into a conflict.
It's tough. I mean, it's hard to approach someone directly like that when you're in a situation, particularly an awkward social situation, that everyone's going to talk about it. But I think these are exactly the reasons why people kind of hate influencers, right? The influencer has become a dirty word because of this superficiality that we associate with it now, from this perfect Instagram lifestyle and people seeing these manicured images and really not seeing the reality of what's going on for people. That these are people who don't seem to have real lives. They seem to have these super perfect lives. And I think it leaves everyone else potentially feeling that they're not good enough. They're very, very imperfect. And a lot of people have been waking up to that. And that's why I think people are connecting very quickly now with the authentic people who are bringing real messages and their real selves to the conversation, not some hyped up or manicured or perfected or really managed image to the market.
I've been victim to it. I was sucked into it years ago. I was following somebody and going, wow, that's exactly where I want my business. That's where I want my lifestyle. And this person's living my dream. So it makes sense for me just to go and learn from that person. So I went there, but then the gaps started to appear, and they just ever appeared so slightly. You could never really, it was just a little bit. It just didn't add up a little bit. And then I'd go to the event and I'd see this person, they'd talk about being vegan. And then they're eating steaks, and then they're talking about not drinking alcohol, then they're having espresso martinis. And then they're talking about a drug-free life, and then they're coming out of the bathroom like this. Woo! Ah! Like they've been eating a powdered donut. And I saw that, and I'm still trying to put it together after the bank account's losing thousands of dollars. And then I realised it was all a show, and I'd been taken for a fool. And I felt really stupid. And then it took me a long time to build trust up in other people. And it was because it all stacked up on social media. But when you met them, the rest of it didn't stack up.
Yeah.
So this problem, I think a lot of people are facing. What have you been doing to be able to catapult your influence? I'm over here in Taiwan, you're over there in the United Kingdom. What are you doing to catapult your influence in this field?
It's an interesting thing that I almost accidentally got into the world of podcasting, and that's where I've been making some ground. But that started through my journey as a public speaker, and so that I still feel is one of the best ways to communicate. And we now have a much more open virtual platform as speakers and presenters. I still think we will listen to people if they talk well, if they tell great stories, if they understand how communication works, and if they deliver authentically, rather than all these things we talked about we don't really like and don't feel authentic. That's what people have always connected with. The principles of Aristotelian rhetoric from ancient times are still just as valid and work just as well as they ever have. And those things apply now into other platforms and apply very well into the world of podcasting. Things like it's called the trivium, the three sides of the ethos, pathos, and logos. It all applies to most communication. And those are the things that I've been always applying in my public speaking and developing to become better and better at that. and it more and more so into the world of podcasting, which I still feel is a burgeoning medium, which is really getting into a takeoff level now. And that's where I'm finding I'm getting a lot of action and traction in my business, and also able to help a lot of other people to do that as well, because there is a huge amount of opportunity here. And really everyone I talk to, even really the most cynical people, find it hard to deny that there's a lot going on in the world of podcasting, and there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. Now, that part about the ethos, the ethics, I remember one of my coaches said to me, Daniel, you got to bring energy. You got to be like Tony Robbins. Woo! And I thought to myself, well, I've never been to a Tony event. I don't want to bring the noise. I don't want to bring the energy. That's not me. But I'm willing to try something new, because maybe I've got to get out of my comfort zone. So I did the Facebook videos and I brought the energy, and I spoke really fast. And people would say to my mum, I don't understand what your son's saying. He speaks way too fast. And I'm defiant. I'm saying, Mum, well, they're not my ideal audience. But it was this feedback. And then I'd go to live events. And I remember having one event and there was about 47 people there and we filled the room. And I got up on stage and I brought the noise and the energy. Woo! And the proximity to power. And people were standing up and dancing. And I felt incongruent the whole time. And I got to the end of that presentation, and out of 47 people, I think I made 3 sales. Yeah. But I didn't feel true to myself, because I'm saying, this is not who I am. That's not who I am. And I want people to see me consistently, see me on the video, see me off stage. I want to be the same. Yeah. And I only made 3 sales. And then I dumped the coach and I said, look, I don't think this is right for me. And so I came back, the exact same presentation the following week, 17 people in the room, but 15 people purchased. And I showed my true self. And I felt better, because when I was talking, I was like, this is me. This is my thoughts. This is my feelings. This is my opinions. But it actually all stacked up, and people went, oh, wow, this is real. Versus the week before, they knew it was fake.
Yeah.
And so I've been down that path, and I didn't feel good.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's, as a speaker and as a presenter or a trainer or whatever capacity you're communicating to people, it's great to be able to have a range of emotional flexibility that you can go to as and when you need it. But for the most part, delivery needs to be you, maybe dialed up a little bit. So it's like you're you, but a bit more energized, not you, but super pumped up Tony Robbins style or what. You know, that's right for Tony, but it may not be right for you. So it is important, because you're not going to feel authentic, and that's always going to come across to what you do. I don't know if you maybe will feel the same way as I do, but because I think we probably entered the world of personal and professional development around the same sort of time, that a lot of people seemed to be teaching people to become type A personalities. Like, that's what they were really focused on. You had to become an overachiever. You had to become this super high energy, feedback for breakfast, all that kind of stuff. And sleeps for losers. And I get up at 4 a.m. after 2 hours of sleep and go and do my big workout. And then I go and change lives and change the world. And if even any of that is true, that's what people end up thinking, that's what I have to become. Whereas I resonate far more and developed a lot further when I recognized that I could still have success. I could still get far being my authentic self, not thinking that me being more laid back and sometimes a bit lazy. I like things to be nice and easy. I'm a kind of smooth going kind of guy, and to think that wasn't ever gonna cut it in the world that I wanted to be competing in, and then finding out actually it can, and people like that a lot more, and people were actually appreciating the message of you don't have to be this one type of person that probably most people are not.
I remember my mum, when we owned our family pawnbroking business, she would go and sleep outside. She'd be like, I'm absolutely buggered. Emotionally, I can't do any more. And she'd go and sleep. So, ladies and gentlemen, where I've been for the past 2 hours, I've been sleeping in my kid's bed, because today I'm absolutely exhausted. And before I jumped on here with Johnny, I ate a meat pie and I didn't brush my teeth. And that's the reality of life, isn't it? You know, I think people have to see that.
I had a really great interview with a guy. So I'm so excited to bring that out to people this week. And one of the things, he's like really been very successful in the podcasting world with his business and stuff like that. And he talked about how much BS is these morning routines people come up with. And I think, yeah, I've been talking about this a lot recently in some of my presentations of this survivor bias. There's a lot of cognitive bias or fallacious thinking that we have that we could all work on cleaning up. And this survivorship bias of, well, yeah, we want to hear success stories. How did you become successful? Oh, well, I have my morning routine and I do these things every day and I do this, this, and this. But you never hear from other people who may be doing exactly the same things and have never managed to hit success. You're only hearing that from the successful people. And yet there's just as many successful people who have none of that. They just have a work ethic. They are very logical and sensible about what they do and they focus on the right things. That it's just understanding sometimes those things are more important. We get very bought in to these success stories and we have to do the things that every successful person has done and that the gurus are telling us all the successful people do, that it's not necessarily so.
I've tried making my bed in the morning. I've read that book and it says make your bed in the morning. So I got up and I started making my bed. And within me, I'm going, screw this. I hate making this bed because tonight I'm going to come in here, I'm going to lay down on it, I'm going to throw the covers back, and I'm going to do it all again. Like, if it's a minute discipline, I don't want to do it. And I felt like a crook doing it. Okay, I'm making the bed, I'm folding the blankets, and I went, screw it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I actually felt better about myself, and I realized for me, I'm like, you know what? Having that one discipline of making my bed didn't make me successful. It didn't bring in more sales. It didn't get me more likes. It didn't get me more conversions. It did nothing for me. Yeah. I've even remember going to an NLP event and we learned about modeling success. And if you just do what successful people do, you'll get the same result. And so one of the guys in the class is modeling the trainer, and it looked like the trainer had had a stroke and he was a little bit messed up. And so he thought, maybe to get results, I've got to act like I've had a stroke. And he's walking around, he's got this jitter. And I said, hey, man, I'm like, hey, you're doing a good job at modeling. I said, it looks like you've had a stroke. And he goes, yeah, no, I'm trying it on. Maybe I'll get better results. And I said to him, I think that idiosyncrasy is not going to work.
Yeah.
I also saw other people modeling one of the trainers, and they're thinking, if this person's a smoker, maybe I've got to smoke cigarettes. And so these people are outside and they're just chains, we call them durries in Australia. They're chain smoking the durries. They're smoking, trying to keep up with the trainer. And I looked at them and went, oh my gosh, hey, you're giving it a go, but I can promise you, smoking cigarettes is not going to get you better results in this department. And it is confusing because we think if we just do what successful people do, we're going to get the same results.
Yeah, it's social proof, right? I mean, we are very responsive to social proof. This is one of Cialdini's influence principles, and so we tend to follow what other people do. And so if we want success, we're supposed to follow what successful people do. We probably need to do the same things. I mean, you can take it to those extremes. There's stories about Milton Erickson, the father of modern hypnotherapy, who would wear purple as a color because he said it was more hypnotic, and then his followers would all wear purple. I think some of them even went as far as putting themselves into a wheelchair to be more like him because they wanted to. It's nuts. But I can remember seeing people really losing their own personalities through this concept of modeling, trying to turn themselves into, like that film Single White Female, if you remember that from the 80s, the Bridget Fonda film, where she tries to take over this other person's life. She becomes her. She gets her haircut the same way, wears the same clothes, steals her boyfriend, gets a job. All of those things. It's like you cannot become someone else. What's that I was saying? Everyone be yourself because everyone else is already taken. It's like that's absolutely true, and you are just going to get lost, and the recovery from that might be tough.
I went to that. I must have gone to the same training because my hypnosis trainer was wearing a purple shirt and he said the same thing. And I thought to myself, bloody hell, you look like Grimace from
from McDonald's.
From McDonald's. I ain't wearing purple. Now, what's coming up for you? What's the next thing coming up for you? What are you doing at the moment? I heard there's rumors that you're writing a book. What's happening?
The book is written. The book is written. I'm very pleased about that. And so it's just in the editing phase at the moment. I've got a few people proofreading it, and that's going to be coming out soon. It's called Podfluence. It's going to be all about building influence and authority through podcasts. without having to have your own show, like primarily operating on the guest principle, but also taking a look at what having your own show could do for you and what you would focus on if you're looking to build authority as a podcaster and what not to do. So it's really about building professional authority and making, for people who it's going to be right for, making podcasting and those sort of being interviewed regularly a part of your business ecosystem.
Mm. Is speaking an inborn attribute? Is there natural born speakers? And if we're not a natural born speaker, we can't do it? Is that the reality, or is this something we can learn?
Far from it. I would say I'm not a natural born speaker. I've always been someone who liked getting up on stage to play the fool and act and stuff like that. I've never had any issue with that. But that was always easier being someone else. Being myself on stage was always a very different thing that would make me 10 times more nervous about being in front of people, if not more. And there are some people who feel more naturally comfortable as a speaker and they're able to just get up on stage and not feel concerned about it, but it doesn't make them good at it. And I do come across people who say, I have no problem getting up on stage, just get up and I speak and I wing it and all this. And so, well, that's great, but you could still be so much better if you actually learned the art, because it is an art form. And like everything, some people are always going to have more natural tendencies towards being able to do something more easily than others, but it isn't always going to win the day for them. They're not always going to end up being better, because training and effort is always going to overtake natural talent.
I remember doing a lot of travel before COVID, and I would go on some really good sized stages, 250 people, 500, 750 people. And one of my really good mates, and he would come along with me, and I'd be ready to go out on the stage, and I'd look at him and I'd say, "Are you scared?" And he'd look at me like, "You're the one going out on stage." I'm like, "Are you scared?" And he goes, "No." And I went, "You should be." And then he'd look at me and go, "You're scared?" And I'm like, "I'm petrified. I'm absolutely petrified, because I've got to go out and I've got to face this fear of public speaking in front of 250, in front of 500 people. And I don't know what they believe. I don't know what they're going to respond to. Are they going to accept me, or are they going to boo and hiss me?" And he's like, "You still haven't overcome that fear." And I said, "I don't think I ever will, because it's always a constant challenge." And I remember I was here in Taiwan about to go on stage in front of 1,000 people, and I text him. And I said, "Hey, I'm about to go on stage in front of 1,000 people. Are you scared?" And he replies back to me, "Should I be?" And I went, "Yes." And I went out there and I was confident, and I got up on stage and I was like, my whole body just went erect and went stiff. I went, and I'm trying to move my neck. And my body's only moving from the waist down. It's it is scary.
my first time on a professional stage was in front of about 3,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
That's a pretty big stage to get on. I have no idea what I actually said to them, because I don't remember anything. All I really remember is going on the stage and filling my pants and then getting off the stage again, and then coming up thinking, all right, well, I did it. And then I'm thinking, I don't even know what I said or how I did. And then people are coming up to me after saying, "Oh, that was great, well done." And so I got a lot of really positive feedback. But it took me a while to be able to get past that. Was just from fear. That was pure fright. That I just had complete block on that. It just went like blurt. Luckily, I had practiced it really, really well, and I think that's what it was. It was like muscle memory and the practice that kicked in, and I didn't have to think about it too much. But oh my goodness, yeah, it took a while to get past that trembling fear. And I don't know if I'll ever lose it completely. Sometimes even when I'm presenting to small business groups, I get a little tremble in my voice. So when people aren't responding to your interactions and things like that, and you're thinking, or somebody's checking their mobile phone and you're teaching a really important bit. You notice these things and it gets to be a little bit disheartening, but you have to accept that's how people are. But you keep going. And the next time you do something, you're going to be better. And there's never going to be that end result where you've reached your pinnacle and there's nowhere to go. There's always going to be room for improvement, which some people may get disheartened by that, but I think that's a great thing, because it means you're never going to be done. There's always somewhere to go and to grow into.
Oh, thank God it happens to you too.
Yeah.
I did a television interview recently, and I could hear my voice trembling, and in my head it sounded like it was this big. And as soon as I got the recording, I went back and went, "Oh, you couldn't even hear it on the recording." But internally, like that tremor felt huge.
Yeah.
And I've had that, somebody's I remember being in Taiwan and there was 1,000 people in the room, and 999 people were looking at me, but that one guy who fell asleep in the front, all I could do was focus on the one guy who's asleep, and I'm going, oh no, I've been rejected. And then he was the loudest clapper at the end, and then I went, what's going on? And he went, I really enjoyed that. I'm like, well, based on the facial features, he looked like you were passed out.
Maybe he was just really closing his eyes so he could tune into everything you were saying.
Yeah. I should have asked him. Well, John, thanks for being here. For people who want to learn more about what you do and to follow your journey and pick up on some of these wonderful influence and persuasion skills from you, where can they follow you? How can they get in contact?
The one thing I'd like to invite everyone to do is to come and check out my podcast. It's called Speaking Influence. I have some amazing guests. I mean, even yourself, you've come in to be a guest on my show before. And this week I'm putting out an episode with a guy who's very big in the world of podcasting. And it's just an incredible interview where we talk about the influence and persuasion of the podcasting world. But I've had people from the Secret Service, psychologists, marketers, brand experts. I mean, we take a whole range of how you create influence and persuasion, and it really is focused on for someone who has a business. If you have your own business, coach, speaker, personal brand, whatever, then you're going to get a value from a lot of those episodes. Some of them are a bit more fun as well, but I invite you to come and check out the show. No financial commitment whatsoever. Come and listen for free. And anything else you want to be directed to, that if you want to connect with me personally, find me on Twitter, and you'll look for Speaking Influence on Twitter or at John A. Ball, and you'll find me there.
Awesome. We'll put the links in the show notes below. So if you're watching us live, tune back in a few minutes from now. We'll put the links into the live stream. And if you're listening to us on the recording, we'll drop it in the bottom of the show notes. John, thank you so much for being here today. A true pleasure, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It's been great.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember, get that foot on that accelerate pedal and make sure you start to accelerate your impact and unleash those new income levels. Till next time, have a wonderful day. Ciao for now.